Appreciate you coming on, mate. I know you're as busy as we are. Just thought we'd get you on and speak about what you're doing and what your group's about.
Yeah, okay. No, it has been a while. We have been talking. We've not had that coffee, so yeah, we can. But yeah, so we pretty much crossed paths. I seen you come up on Facebook. Men's mental health is obviously, it's a hot topic for lots of people. Most people that talk about it have experienced it. Most people that get it want to give back. And the organisation is pretty much the same. We want to work with dads. We know, as we'll discuss through this session, I'm sure, the big impact that fatherhood has on mental health, particularly that transition at the beginning. It's very unsupported. We still fall into that trap, which does fit with men's mental health in general, of it's our job to be stoic and be the protector and not talk about these feelings, and that's where it came from. But the one main difference is there's a big difference between men's mental health and what we call paternal mental health.
Yeah.
And paternal is the father's part, and what we've seen quite a lot is there's lots of places in the country that are offering support for men that try and cater to dads. It has to be specific because it's that journey into fatherhood that causes it. So whether it's the fact that you've got to draw on your own childhood, which when you become a parent, you've got to learn from somewhere. So whether it was a good experience or a bad experience, you draw from your childhood because you're creating somebody else's.
Yeah.
And it's where you learn it from. So sometimes you're picking at things that you've not dealt with, or you've tried to box off and you can't box it off anymore. Then you've got the emotions that come with it. Then there's changes in hormones, there's changes in certain situations, and I think when we look at mental health in general, we're starting to get a little bit better at understanding it's not just this chemical imbalance that we used to think it was, that it's situations and it's circumstances.
Yeah.
Nothing changes your circumstances quite like becoming a parent. So
Yeah.
having
Amen.
specialist pathways, so we do that through one-to-one groups. That's where we teamed up with you guys because we wanted to do walks, we want to get men outside. We know it's nice when they can bring the little ones and they can have that time to interact. What we do see from that is the more we have activities of dad with their children, it gives mum time to have some time to herself, and take some of that pressure off, because we know a lot of the parenting load goes one way most of the time, and that's what the programme's trying to do. Is yes, it supports them. We also know that 20% of dads statistically will say in that first year after having a baby, they're completely isolated because they don't do this.
Yeah.
They don't interact in the same way. Especially if, say, 4 of us are best mates, gone to school together, I have a baby, you haven't got babies. If I've got issues with parenting, I'm not really going to come to you in the same way that I would have talked to you about relationship stuff or work problems. So it's, where do I now go? So it's not saying that your friends are not your friends anymore, it's just sometimes you need a different circle. For different conversations. And if you are a parent, if someone that's not got kids tries to give you advice on how to do it, you don't listen to this. So it doesn't matter how well you know them.
Yeah, you can stick that.
Yeah, you won't take it. So that's a lot of what it came from. So we've done it for a while in various different areas, and then we were commissioned by Coventry City Council to develop a pathway here, and we just tried to connect. And the first person that I connected with is the one guy that still owes me a coffee.
I'll get you on Saturday. Yeah, and you're right. I mean, Liam and I got the kids, and there's no instruction manual that comes with it. There's no, people say, well, it's like a switch going. Well, it is to an extent, because you remember stuff and you've picked up on stuff, and some things make sense. A lot of it doesn't make sense, and you're kind of like, shit, who do I ask? What do I do? What, where does this go? What does this bit do? But then, like you say, then along with that comes I can't just dump it all on the wife, because she's gone through enough over the last 9 months, plus the childbirth and everything else. We need to take a little bit, and it's where do you go to get those pointers and the, excuse me, how do I do this?
Yeah, I think our first birth, because immediately was quite difficult. My wife, 1 o'clock in the morning, just woke up, stood up, my waters broke, and at that point, because you build up, don't you, when you go to the antenatal classes, you do all the prep you can, then all of a sudden, shit is happening, and you sort of go, I stood up and went, fuck, where's your bag? Who do I ring? I ended up ringing my dad. I went, Dad, it's happening. He went, what? I said, well, Bridget's gone into labour. He went, what are you fucking ringing me for? I went, shit, hospital. But then you panic.
Yeah.
And then we got there. By the time we got there, she was already 7 centimetres dilated. But then the birth went a bit tits up. She had to have an emergency 4 sets with no pain relief, nothing. She literally went, if we don't get the baby out now, you're in. But as a man, you're standing there and you think, I can't do a fucking thing about this.
Yeah.
My wife is screaming out in pain, and I'm just told to stand there and put a fan on her head.
Yeah. Yeah.
And you think, you that instinct, I want to take that pain, but you can't.
Yeah.
You just stood there like a fucking white lettuce.
Yeah, we had it with Ray when she was born. I mean, Jen was struggling. It was fucking horrendous. I mean, they pressed the panic button, and I'm stood at one point. I'm stood next to her at the side of the bed. Hit the panic button. Everybody comes running in. It's like being at the bottom of a mall at the game of rugby. And suddenly I'm at the bottom of the bed. I'm like,
what do I do?
What am I supposed to do? And
Yeah.
like you say, you can't do anything. And it's like, I mean, she had a horrendous time, and thankfully she doesn't remember a great deal about it. But yeah, and then that sits with you then for so long, and you're trying to process it. It's
the helplessness.
Yeah.
And we're not comfortable with that because
No.
we do things as men. You know, we can joke about it, but we open jars and we fix problems.
Yeah.
That is our sole
Yeah.
purpose. And in that situation, you can't do either, and we're not comfortable. So a lot of the work that we do is working with the professionals in that situation through training and through consultancy. That this is how you interact with him. You've got to give him something to do.
Yeah.
You know, whether I know you said about the flannel, but you know there is lots of things that they can do just to involve them, but obviously explain it as well. I don't know what your situations were like, but I've known my wife Sarah since we were 16. We met first day of college, and it'll be 26 years this year. So when it comes to in that situation, if you want her to remain calm through all of that, use me.
Yeah.
Because you don't know her like I do.
Yeah.
So you can't calm her down in that situation. So tell me the message you want, and I'll be the one that sort of delivers it so that I can reassure her. Plus it gives me something to do for what you've just described. It's that traumatic situation that we're getting better at it. So a couple of MPs at Westminster that had been through birth trauma created an inquiry, and they launched an all-party parliamentary group to look into birth trauma. They include dads and partners in that for the first time. So we were at Westminster 6 months ago and then 6 weeks ago, looking at what can we do because of what you just described. Because we are caught up a little bit on toxic masculinity, and I know that's a conversation that people are a little bit scared to have. We have to have it. So Sarah and I have got 7 boys. So they're all boys from 21 down to 5. So masculinity,
Jesus Christ.
We've now got a granddaughter, so it's sort of trying to balance it the other way. But there's a lot of masculinity, there's a lot of testosterone in my house, so it's a conversation that we're never far away from.
Yeah.
Is how do you channel it? But that protective part is what you two have just described. It's what we're programmed to do.
Yeah.
And we're not allowed to do it in a system, and sometimes if you do, it's zero tolerance and you're crossing the line, and it's sometimes that line's very blurry.
Yeah.
When the people that you care about the most in the world are in real danger and you can't take it away. And it's not saying that it's acceptable to do certain things, it's just trying to work with services to know, just see where they're coming from in that situation, because in any other situation, if our loved ones were in that much trouble, we'd do anything we can to prevent it.
Yeah.
And just because there's a baby coming into the world, it doesn't make it easier to process, and what you've just described, that sort of at the other end of the table. It's like, okay, how can we help process that? Because we just go home.
Yeah.
So for us, we had 2 really bad ones, and one Sarah almost died. And I literally was allowed to just get in the car and go home.
Yeah.
Pull up on the drive, and I just sort of sat there for a minute, and I thought, how do I go into the house and make peanut butter sandwiches and watch Fireman Sam and come from that? But there's nowhere to process.
Yeah.
You guys know this, particularly we've talked this with the police before.
Yeah.
You see everything that happens at work, and that's a switch is just supposed to be able to be switched. You can go into a different mode. The more it becomes something that you're being exposed to more and more, it becomes like a complex PTSD.
Yeah.
Which is because you're constantly exposed to it. So oddly enough, when we did research with frontline services, so my background is army. So when we looked at frontline services, the police as well, that they're actually more susceptible to that sort of impact on mental health, because you're exposed to so much more of it on a regular basis.
Yeah.
You think you're immune to it when it happens to the people that you care about,
Yeah.
and you're not.
You're just not dealing with it.
No,
you're
you're just not dealing with it.
Yeah, I mean, going back to what you said, I mean, when Jen had Ray, you sort of like, you feel guilty afterwards because you sort of like, the baby's out, baby's fine, she's over there, but my attention is on the wife because she's not okay, and then afterwards you kind of think, shit, probably should have spent a little bit more time initially bonding, but that all goes out the window. Like, and say you've got your plan before you go in, this is what we're going to do, it's going to go swimmingly, we're all going to have this nice cozy pictures, it's all tranquility. No,
they don't.
Somebody's just pressed a big red button, it's gone to ratchet.
And you like you say, you go home and you try and eat, or I was by myself the first night, and you sort of go, I got on the Xbox, I can't, your head's just going, shit, I've got to pick this up for her.
Yeah.
Have I got to do this in the room? Have I got to what do I, you sort of go, whoa, fucking hell, what do I do now? My dad, and then you go, and then you start panicking.
Yeah.
But once you see the child, and the next day when your wife looks like hell, then you go, actually, it was.
But you don't tell that she looks like that.
Oh God, no.
No,
I want
no.
to survive. No, I've learned by being married. No, she always looks great. Yeah, she always looks fantastic.
Well, you've said it now.
Yeah, cheers, mate.
Secrets out, mate.
It is.
Bollocks.
But that's a really good point. And again, one of the programs that we do is helping dads with that first night, because we don't discuss that. Because particularly, say it's not traumatic, but it's just not gone according to plan. And that birth plan that you in the army, we had this phrase that no plan survives first contact.
Yeah.
And that's a birth plan.
Yeah.
It very rarely goes how we're going to do. So sometimes to us, if we've not been involved in the process or the conversations, we see it going terribly wrong. It's not, it's just changing.
Yeah.
And then, like I said, you get in that car, you go home. Say they don't come home that first night. That night in the house on your own is awful sometimes.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
we looked at it differently during COVID, I think, because you couldn't go and see your mates. You couldn't nip out for a pint if that's what you do. You couldn't go because you were stuck in the house.
Yeah.
And then we started to think, well, actually, all dads have that sort of isolation in that first night, and the emotions are up and down. And I'm not a big crier, and it's not that I've got any issue with it. It's just not me.
Yeah.
I don't like when I hand my babies. I don't cry. I'm not that way inclined. First night of my eldest being born, I couldn't stop, and I rang my auntie, who used to be a nurse. I said, "What's wrong with me?" And she said, "It's all the emotions. It's the day.
Yeah.
It's everything."
Yeah.
Nobody explains that you're going to go home. You're going to feel it been hit by a train because you didn't physically go through it.
Yeah.
And then you feel guilty because you feel that you're thinking about yourself. And then your priorities, like you've just said, and I've been criticised for this before, but it's just my opinion. In that situation, Sarah was always my priority.
Yeah.
And that's not that I don't love my children and we haven't got that relationship, but in that moment, I have to protect you and make sure you're okay. People can say that that's sexist, I don't care. That's what happens.
Yeah.
So you do shift that priority, and then you've got a little bit of guilt of, you didn't put, like you've just said perfectly, and then you go home and you sit there and you're dwelling on it and you're thinking about how things went on the day. There's nowhere to process it, so it starts very quickly that we bottle up those emotions because no one gives us a chance to talk about it.
Yeah, that's absolutely bang on because you know, like you say, and I think selfishly, I think in the back of your head you're thinking, right, I need you to be okay because I don't want to fucking doing it. I need you on board to help me out with it.
Christ,
So I need to get you better so you can come and give me a chuck because if it's on
on
my own,
I'm
it's
shit
gone
creek
wrong.
of that paddle. I've got a child to look after. You think, oh shit.
Yeah.
But I think with Riley, again, Bridget had a C-section, so this was sort of pre-planned, so we knew what was going on. But then you get home, it's a totally different healing process, and you go, fucking hell, it's not like the first one. I had to give injections every night, and you think, fucking, I'm not built for this.
Yeah.
But then it's reprogramming your mind to go, well, what did we do with the first one?
Yeah.
It's completely different. So no child's the same, no plan is the same. It's how I learned to deal with it. I mean, now they're crazy as a box of frogs. You've met them, and Riley's your best mate. All he says is Dan. I was like, fucking yeah, I'm your dad. But yeah, thanks. But I suppose at that time, I mean, from what you do, have you noticed dads coming to you a lot sooner than they would have before, or is it they've got this? Oh, we found out we're pregnant. What can I do from this moment? What can I do now to support my partner or wife? Or is it after the birth that they're going, shit, what do I do now?
It's pretty 50-50 to be
Okay.
fair. So when we first started having these conversations, it was originally Instagram, and it was the back end of COVID. So we'd had, my youngest is 5, and the delivery was really traumatic. Sarah was really unwell. She developed sepsis from a C-section, and he was in a neonatal unit. And it was in that moment of, I'm going to lose them both. And again, it's where who deserves your attention the most. And that sounds dreadful, but you're trying to prioritise, and I was the same as you. And there'll be a point I've got to have this conversation with my son, and he's only 5, so he probably wouldn't fully understand it, but you've got to get my focus, Sarah, because we need you.
Yeah.
We don't survive without
My house
Mum.
would fall to shit without my
Well,
wife.
But be honest about
They
it.
pay the bills, they do everything for us. She organises holidays. Oh, I can organise a piss in the
There's
brewery.
this head of the family stuff that people talk about, you know, but my house does not function.
Oh, I wouldn't have a clue what I'm
And I can't multitask. I know they say that men can't, but
doing. We can't.
two things max. Like Sarah can do 12 things at once and have 7 conversations. I can't do that. But it was very selfish. Of I need you to be okay, and we sort of struggled with that a little bit. And then when I came home, and I couldn't get rid of it. I couldn't shift that, because at one point I said goodbye to her. She was really unwell, and at that moment I couldn't get past it.
Mm.
I didn't know who to speak to, and then the hospital asked us to share our experience because it had been pretty bad. And I got up and spoke, and a few midwives said, "We never hear from dads discussed like that in that way. Can you share it?" And it sort of snowballed. So we started doing it through Instagram originally, and then I realised social media is not particularly healthy for me, and I'm not criticising anybody for it. I got caught up in the like culture. So to put something out, I was so driven by how many people were interacting with it. I thought, this is not healthy for me. I don't normally need that validation, but for some reason through social media I did. So as quick as I interacted, I said to Sarah, I've got to find that balance because it's not good for me. But what I was finding is it was mainly mums that were coming and saying, I've seen a post, or I do lots of conferences and lectures on this sort of stuff, and it would be, I've heard you talk, I think my husband's experienced X, Y, and Z, or I think he's got depression, or I think he's got this. Will you speak to him? That's how it started.
Yeah.
I have seen more men will come forward, and I think there's more exposure in mental health in general. Sometimes I think we saturate areas a little bit too much.
Yeah.
But we're definitely having conversations more. Services are seeing dad a little bit earlier in terms of that interaction of, are you okay? Not great, but they're planting the seed. So we are seeing that dads will come on their own. Again, it's later. I would like it early. I'd love to work with them before it becomes an issue in an ideal world. So hospitals can say, we've got this service in Coventry, for example, or other areas where we operate. Go and engage with them and do some antenatal classes. Like we do baby massage for dads. You know, dads' classes are sold out. Dads will come, so I deliver the session. So it's just dads in a room, and we're teaching confidence building, and they're sitting and they're interacting and they're talking. If you're doing that early, it's great because babies are a little bit little. They're the same dads that would have came to an antenatal class before. So as part of the programme, you talk about what might happen and what to do if it does.
Yeah.
So it's not going to stop it happening. It just means somebody's made you aware that you can feel
Yeah,
this
it's a bit
too.
more prepared
Yeah.
for it. Yeah.
And that's the difference. So when we can interact early, we see much more engagement from dads. But if it's coming through services or through a mum, it's much further down the line. And, but it, like I said, it is 50-50. And like I said, in an ideal world, we'd love to see them a little bit earlier. And I think it's getting better. I think services are, but it is the push on men. And it is the fact that you guys, particularly we've had this conversation before about shift work and police, that you can go lots of times where you're going to miss out on a lot of the parenting stuff. And it's just the way the pattern falls.
Yeah.
And you've got that parenting guilt and that work-life balance. So we know that's going to come at some stage of parenting. It's again trying to put the tools in place to deal with them when they do. So you can have that conversation with your partner, because in relationships, it's very rarely 50-50. I don't know what it's like in your house, but in my house it might be 90-10 some days.
Definitely 90-10 in my
Yeah,
house.
it's definitely mine as
And
well.
it's that balance, it's this ideal world of 50-50 parenting. In lots of families it doesn't work, but it might be that sometimes with that recovery and doing the injections that you mentioned, Liam, that we're the 90.
Yeah.
Not always,
Oh,
not
yeah.
very often, but there is times where it'll
As
sort
long
of
as we
swing.
take the burden and
Yeah.
take on the role
And
of
that's
being
what
that.
family is.
Yeah.
And I think that we're just starting to see that again. And it takes a village to raise a child, you know. So we've got my eldest, his granddaughter and his partner live with us. And people keep saying, oh, isn't it amazing they live with you? I think it's really cool. That's how it was. That's what we did as families.
Yeah,
Families
yeah.
took care of each other.
Yeah.
We've just lost
Yeah.
that a little bit. And I think that more conversations we're having on the wider scale of parenting is that we are getting back to a more balanced family dynamic, and sometimes we might be able to lean on people, we might be able to ask for support. We're the ones that find that more difficult, I think, as dads, is to say, look, I need a little bit of support, I need some help, I need some advice. Great at giving it. You see this,
Yeah.
you'll know this from the work
Yeah.
that you do. You go on a Facebook group, you'll see this comment. No one can see this, but I'm doing it on the table. You'll see
That's
this
why it's recording, mate. When I get around to doing it, it'll be on the video.
you'll see this comment on every feed when there is like a closed Facebook group for men, right? But if we're specialising it in dads, and it'll be, somebody will ask a question. Anybody got any tips on how to settle a little one that's teething, for example? Or I'm really struggling with not having intimacy with my wife after I had a baby. Anybody got any tips on what I can do? And you'll see this comment, and it'll be, I've been in this group for a long time, this is the first time I've commented. It's in every single closed group I've ever been part of, you see that comment. And it's because I can now give you the advice, I've not got to ask for it. So it might have been the same question that he wanted a year previously, that he's seen somebody else comment, and he's took the advice from the comments or from the posts, and then he can impart it back. So we are quite good at interacting, we're just still not great at asking for it.
Yeah.
We'd rather give it, and that's the bit that I'd like to see change next, is that we can ask for that support, because we still do see it as weakness, needing help. We do as men, unfortunately, and that's going to take a long time to overcome, I think. But I do feel it's shifting.
Yeah.
No,
I
the
agree.
work that you're doing is highlighting it, you know. So the more we have these conversations, the more we normalise it. What's happened before, we wait for celebrities to make it cool.
Yes.
The Tyson Furies
Yeah.
of the world. You know, when
Yeah.
he came out, my inbox spiked.
Yeah.
Paddy Pember, the UFC guy,
Yeah.
he
Yeah.
talked about his friends after he won.
Yeah.
And it was, I'd rather you cry on my shoulder than carry your coffin, or whatever the comment was.
Yeah.
It was so powerful, it spikes it again. But it's people like you guys doing the work that you do that keep it between the spikes.
Yeah.
And that's when you just need more of those voices.
Yeah. Like you say, the majority of it does come back to that toxic masculinity, doesn't it? You know, we've been conditioned and brought up in such a way that we can't show our emotions, we can't be upset, we can't ask for help because you're the man, you're supposed to do it. And that's what both our groups do, in terms of that's what we're looking at changing, that's what we need to do to progress along the path we're on.
So then, as a group, who do you talk to? Do you talk to each other?
We're very.
He don't stop, does he?
No, I don't stop.
God,
But no, I think for me, these two know a lot about my life. If I'm having a bad day, I'll go, boys, I'm really struggling. And they'll take the piss for 5 minutes, but then they'll go, how can we help? What do you need from us? I'd like to talk to my wife about it, but then on the flip side, you sort of go, right, she's looking after the house, she's organising the lunches for the kids, she's organising, she's paying this, she's doing that, she's got a job. You think, I don't want to burden her. But then she probably knows me best out of anyone, she'd know what to say. But then you sort of think, fucking hell, I've done it over and over again. So these boys probably take the brunt of my emotions at times.
And is that like a male friendship group thing that you would have done, or is it this specific group?
I think it's this group that have got it out of me. I think my mates from school, we'd go down the pub and we'd have a laugh and a joke, but I wouldn't feel comfortable going, I think I've got a bit of depression. I think since finding Back and Forth, I'll talk about it to anyone that. I don't care. Because if I realised I was going through that, I can see the symptom, I'm going to go and talk to you. But it's this group, and if it wasn't for Dan and Will, they've got me through some real down days. But it's given me the confidence to speak up. I mean, at work now, I'm doing a first aid course with Dan, and I've been talking to colleagues that are struggling, and I've noticed, and they're going, thank God you spoke to me, because I wasn't feeling great. So
You do see it, don't you?
Yeah.
I think once you've been through it.
once you've been through it
yeah.
and you see the emotions and the symptoms and the physical, fuck this.
Yeah, you almost
You
look
can go,
at the mirror and you're looking back at yourself thinking, I've been where you are. And
100%.
if I'd had somebody come and tap me on the shoulder and go, you alright? No, I'm
100%.
not. But that's, again, I like you say about talking to Bridget about stuff that when we spoke about it a couple of weeks ago, didn't we? It's that guilt thing, because you don't want to burden them with more of your shit, because you know they know what you're going through, and vice versa, and you know that they've got stuff they're dealing with. You're kind of like, well, I'm struggling. I know you already got some stuff going on. I don't want to put any more on you. And then that's why you kind of get sort of isolated. And like Liam said, you know, we speak daily. We probably speak more than I speak to my wife by text message. But I think that's the group, isn't it? That's what we
do.
try to do, and that's what we're hoping. That's what we are doing. And we've seen it today. The WhatsApp group was blown up today with a couple of new members come in. The new lads introduced himself and sort of just literally laid everything out. And it's kind of like, shit. But then everybody else has jumped on board, and everybody else has been really sort of supportive and chucking comments in and doing so. So you're thinking it's starting to make a difference.
Is it new for you then? Would you have been someone that would have spoke about it before, or has the group coaxed that out of you as well, do you think?
Very much a case of the group has got it out of me. I was always a massive advocate for it, but you know, you'd always share the post on Facebook saying, oh, it's mental health day, you know, it's important to talk and all that stuff. Would I do it myself? No, absolutely not. It was always smile on my face, I'm fine, I'm just having a bad day. And then I think the thing that made it easier for me to speak up about the issues that I was going through within the group was knowing that everyone in this group is here for a reason. They're not going to judge me. They're going to understand and be able to offer, you know, some little tips and tricks to help me get through the day and all that jazz. And having that little thing in the back of my mind saying, yeah, they know, just gave me that final push to go, send. And now I'm sat at a table doing a podcast with them.
You're doing something right or wrong.
And yeah,
Find out in a bit.
and because of that, it helps me to get that continued support. So I'm doing a lot. I know I'm doing a hell of a lot better than I was before I joined the group, and when I joined the group at the start, I'm doing a hell of a lot better than I was. So even though I do get, you know, my bad days, we all do, I can just go, right, damn Liam, you pair of bollocks. I'm having a shit day, that's why I've not said anything. And then you just go, okay, do you need anything? I was like, no, I just need to tell you.
But you're still reluctant though. You know, if you're going to send that message, say, look lads, I'm really struggling today, is there still days where you're not sure if you want to send it?
I have found that a couple of times. So I know a few weeks ago it just seemed like every day was a bad day at that point. And I was like, well, I've already told them for the last couple of days I'm having a bad day. They get the gist, I don't want to have to tell them again, they don't want to hear it, and you still have those negative thoughts in your head. And then the voice of reason kicks in saying, stop being a dickhead and just send the message.
I'd rather you
And
send
again,
it. I'd rather you send it every day than us go a couple of days and not hearing from you. Go, shit, is he all right? Do
We did
need
have
to ring
that
him?
a couple of weeks back. We were like, we've not heard off him.
We've not heard off him for like 4 days. Do we need to ring him? Do we need to? I'd
We're going
rather
to come
you
around and
send
take
it.
the door thing just in case, just to make sure you're all right.
I'd have been sat there in Mickey Mouse pyjamas, what the fuck are you doing here?
I'd rather you send it every day, mate. It doesn't bother me.
Yeah.
I'll read it and
Obviously,
read it. It's
Yeah, obviously now when I do have a bit of a shit day, I will send it. But you still get that little hesitation sometimes going, have I said it too much? Even though you know full well you haven't, there's no such thing, come on.
Yeah.
But it still happens, it's really weird.
We have a lot of referrals with our group, like blokes already in the chat will say, can you have my mate? And that's how a lot
Yeah,
get.
yeah.
And again, like with yourself, we have wives that tag partners in Facebook posts, and it's like clearly
He needs a
nudge,
kick up,
nudge.
yeah.
Sledgehammer him.
Yeah, it's a breeze block
That's
coming
the elbow
out.
in the coffin.
I mean, I guess, do you have the same sort of thing? So like you've got lads that are involved with you and they're like, oh, my mate's going through this, and then I'll just bring them along, or...
I think it's when they don't always realise what you do until they're in it, do they?
No.
Because you can advertise to a degree, but you can never fully advertise everything that you do. So we have like specialist pathways. So for example, 3, soon to be 4 of my boys have autism. So there was training programs and helping services understand how to cater to people that have got neurodiversity in general. So when you've got a bit of an understanding, we have a pathway for dads that have got autism or ADHD that can just help them understand what's going on in a different way. Sometimes, particularly with mums, is that what we think is postnatal depression could be someone that's neurodiverse that's just having a difficult time, and it's making everything more sensory orientated. So we've got these. So we have these conversations. So when you've got a dad who's came in because he's separated from his partner, or he's struggling with drink or drugs, and then you get taught to him, "Oh, I've got a mate who's just had a baby and he's got autism, and he can't interact with the baby because he can't understand like the non-spoken language."
Yeah.
So he's finding it really difficult. I didn't realise you did that. Could you speak to him? So we do see similar.
Yeah.
When you're having conversations, it's somebody starts to think, or there'll be the one in the group who thinks, I'll go and see what it's like first. You know?
Test the
And if
waters
it's
for
all
you.
right, you can all
Yeah,
come.
yeah.
So again, we sort of, it's like with my boys, one of my boys in particular, when we go anywhere new, he's the one that goes off and makes the friends.
Yeah.
And then he'll bring the rest of the boys with him.
Yeah.
So I think most groups have that.
Yeah.
And I think we've found that with guys that they might have friends that are just found out they're pregnant. But what we tend to see sometimes with circles is that they all get pregnant at much the same time.
Yeah.
And it's like they could have all been either trying or not. But it's like within an 18-month period, a group of friends will be a few of them having a baby. So they will have come through it and said, it's okay. What we did have in terms of feedback is that we do like a fun side, which is like the massages to stay in place, the reading, it's all and the walks with you guys. And then there's the more serious one-to-one stuff that we work on. A lot of our advertisement seemed to be focusing on the one-to-one and the mental health side. So when people comment, I didn't realise you did fun stuff. And it was actually a mum that said it to us in an event, because we were going to do some walking football.
Yeah.
And she goes, I didn't realise you did fun stuff as well. And I thought, God. So sometimes you don't realise the image you're putting out until somebody else points it. So it's sometimes we're advertising some of what we do and people don't realise. And I think it's the same, even when we got talking, some of the other stuff that you do, the more layered approach, even the WhatsApp group, even how close you guys are, because you're mirroring what you want them to do. And I think that if somebody comes in and thinks, well, I'm going to see what this group is like, and then they see the conversations that you, as the leaders of the group, for want of a better phrase, are putting into that group, it's, do you know what, these guys are all right, actually. I don't mind telling my friends about this. And I think, so it is, I think sometimes we just want to make sure where we're going, what we think it is, before we invite others.
Yeah, I think we find in that, you know, again, it comes to the stigma, doesn't it? If you start brandishing mental health around and issues and concerns, and people, I don't want to get involved in that. But like, if we say, we're going to go and do, I mean, we've just moved the social night to a Monday night, so we can incorporate some tag rugby into it as well now. So hopefully that'll bring some more lads out, because like, well, actually, I can go along and do that. I might not have to speak to anybody, but I'm there. And like you say, it's get a feel for it. Oh, right, that's what goes on. I'll come back next week. I might not play tag rugby next week, but I might have a sit down and have a beer with you and talk to somebody. And it's right, because you're trying to keep it on topic and serious and give it the time that it needs.
You need to keep engaging, don't you?
Got to make it.
That can't be all of it.
No.
Like I said, then
No.
Because what you've probably found, and I've seen it from following it, and it's the bit that, not in an arrogant way, it's the bit that I get the most pride from, is when people come and they engage and they come back.
Yes.
Yeah.
If you're just getting fresh people all the time, something's not right.
Yeah.
Because
Yeah.
they come in, so your referral process works or your engagement works, but do they stay? And I think when you've got different activities, you can cater to more people, because we don't really want, not every man straight out the bat is comfortable to sit here and do this.
No.
And if that's all you're offering, I think it's something
It's
quite
just turn off
intimidating.
straight away,
Yeah,
yeah.
it is. So the rugby's great, or the humour. I get criticised. People say it's a military thing. I think it's more of a male thing.
Yeah.
Is that we do make light of situations that we probably shouldn't. And the delivery room is sometimes one of them. Midland said, "Oh, Dad was cracking jokes. He wasn't taking it seriously." No, he was.
It's
how
just
we-
that's
it's-
why
He's cracking
It's
the
how
jokes.
we
Yeah.
go with things, you know.
It's like, it's either I do that or I'll cry my eyes
Yeah.
out.
Yeah.
So I'd rather do that.
Yeah.
And then she'll think it's business as usual because I'm joking, so I'm reassuring
Yeah.
her.
Yeah.
So what looks inappropriate, it isn't.
No.
It's sort of his way of coping. And I think there was a study, and I'm going to get it wrong here because I've seen it online. It was in Scandinavia, and it was to do that if you were, say, us four guys in a car, we had an accident. Once we realised we were all safe, we'd automatically start making fun of each other about who screamed the loudest.
It's looking big, yeah, too right, yeah.
So that is
Then
what
we
do.
straight on,
It's
mate.
like, is everybody alive? Right, okay, we can joke about this now.
Yeah.
Who's driving?
That's how
It's
we
a whole cool running thing, isn't it?
Okay, you're
Thank you,
dead.
Dad. Yeah.
So we say that because we're always laughing, like with my boys, particularly the older ones, and when one of the girlfriends, because they've got my two eldest boys, have got two very senior girlfriends, and they're around the house quite a lot. So it is humour. It's how my family functions, and it's like we're only nice to people that we don't like.
Yeah.
And I think that is
Yeah.
maybe it is.
Yeah, if you're ripping the piss out, you're fine.
You
You're
don't do that to
yeah.
people that we don't like.
No.
So it is a turn of
It's
endearment.
right. It's right. You know,
It
you don't
is true.
get,
And
you
you
don't
need
get
it.
around the fucks by the first sort of 10 minutes of conversation when something's gone wrong. You know, you
I'm
think
really,
something's
really
going to move.
struggling. This is happening. Okay, let's deal with it. As soon, like you said, as soon as you test, the water's starting to warm up a little bit. Then I'm going to shred you.
Yeah.
And because
Yeah.
that's how we process it.
Yes.
There is a time and a place, and
Yeah.
sometimes we get that wrong.
Yeah.
And we go with the humour too quickly, and you think, yeah, I shouldn't have done that. Like an example we've got is that my wife Sarah suffers of anxiety, and it's connected to ADHD, so she does get quite anxious. And we were trying to figure out, how do I support you through it? And some people who listen to this will say this is inappropriate, but it's just what worked for us. Is that we had a scale in my house, and it was 0 to Lionel Richie, because he dances on the ceiling. So it was, whenever she was struggling, I'd say, where are we? Are we Lionel yet? And this one day she was really struggling, and she was, this is ground control to Major Tom, you know, this is back. And it was like, okay, let's walk it back. But it was, you can let it control you, which it will do. And I think sometimes the humour is how we take a little bit of that control back.
Yeah.
Is it? And yes, there's things that we should joke about, and understand that you do get that balance wrong. But I think we are quite comfortable when you get us together.
Yeah.
That is what we do. We do sort of like to do that. And for some people, it's not right. And I suppose in the group, you'll feel out the one that you think, yeah, we maybe can't joke with him because you take it the wrong way. And that's not criticism of him.
No, that's just
to do with your leadership.
Yeah, and that's people, isn't it? You know, what works for one person doesn't work for somebody else, and there are limits to everybody's sense of humour and understanding. Thankfully, not in this room.
Not in the,
I don't think we've reached it yet.
Not yet.
I don't think I have a limit.
You definitely
need
don't.
it because one, the job that you do, but also you're the ones. Everybody's got their own concerns and their own stuff going on, and they're looking for advice, so they're just sharing what they're experiencing. You guys see what everybody's experiencing, and you know it's like compassionate fatigue.
Yeah.
Because you're constantly saturated with negativity, and then you do a job that is saturated in negativity, with a negative opinion quite a lot of what you do. So you need outlets and create that amongst yourselves. I suppose there's a therapeutic process in creating the group, because you get from it as well as give.
Yeah, and we've said that over and over, haven't we? You know,
100%.
the amount of time. I mean, even this is therapy for me. We sit there and we
sort of
if it's just
follows.
us three or we've got guests on it, it's that, right, let's pick your brains, that's how you think about this, and that's how you get through it. You go to a social night, there might only be the three of us there or whatever, but we still have a bit of a laugh, and it's an hour out of the house, it's something different, it's a distraction, same as the walks, you know, it's, as much as we're putting it on and putting it there to help other people,
It's
it's
helping us more
coming
all
back
the
to the
time.
way
It's
of
just,
Just
you
as
know,
much for us as
Yeah.
it is for them.
I mean, going back to your two sons that have got autism, my son, at the minute, we're going through all the referrals, all the
It's a lovely
rigmarole of the forms you've got to fill out. And I mean, we noticed it when he was very young. He was stimming with his arms. He was absolutely going. It's like he was at a concert, just loving life. And then we've noticed that his speech, everything about him, we've like, yeah, there's something not wrong, because it's not negative. It's a positive. He's not like the other kids, which is 100% fine. But I think for me, I mean, my wife, she's a nurse, and she puts a nursing head on and goes, right, I know what to do. Whereas me, I'm like, fucking hell, where do I start? What do I do? Who do I turn to? When I'm going through it, fuck, no one really to talk to. So I guess I'm not told the boys this, but I struggle with it quite a lot. I'm very, oh shit. I could probably talk to them about it, and they'd probably give me some advice, but I'm like, oh, bollocks. There's no one to talk to. Because as much as I want to be there for him and go, mate, you'll be alright, you'll be fine, I don't know. Are people going to take him as I know him, as my boy? Because I take the joke out of it, I wind him up, and he thrives off it because he learned how to punch and call me rather rude names thanks to him. Yeah, cheers mate, thanks for that. But I suppose it's difficult, because I go to work and think about it sometimes. Did I say this right to him? Did I give him more attention, or did I give my daughter less attention because he was having that meltdown, or he was doing this? So I struggle. So I might need to talk to you after this.
No, so a few things. One is, yeah, you can always talk to me. We set up, there's a charity in Warwickshire called Act for Autism, and they contacted me through, so we home educate our boys. That's part of the reason, is the system makes it more difficult for children that learn differently.
Right.
So again, I'm the same as you, we're very positive about it. I try not to see the negatives. We know they're there, and I try not to put the negative weight onto them, because society's going to do that anyway.
Yeah.
So we do try, we don't say learning difficulties, we say learning differences, because they learn differently. It doesn't make it wrong, it's just different to the system that we have, and the system probably needs to change rather than the children. But it is difficult, there's no two ways about it. There is more challenges, and it's that protective part that we talked about at the beginning. It's, again, when we worked with, so through Act for Autism, we run a group for dads, and we've got 3 sessions coming up, January, February, March, and it's a bit like what you do, but it's helping understand a little bit more about autism, because we've got experts that come, and then just the things that dads see that we know from research, a lot of these common things. And one of them is, services have always had this issue where they say, dad's in denial, he's not taking it seriously, he can't see what we're trying to explain to him, or he doesn't come to appointments. And it's going back to that protective part, is it's not always that we're further behind, or that we see it differently, or that we can't accept it, or that we've got an issue with it. Sometimes they do, we know they do, but on the whole, it's, once I fully accept this, I've got to accept I can't protect him from it. I can't take it away, I can't always be there, and again, we're practically minded, that's how we process things. So it's how can I practically prepare him for what's going to come his way, and it's very difficult because you don't know what's coming.
Yeah.
Because you don't know how they're going to be received. So it's trying to work with them to help them understand. The only good thing I found from research is, and again this is very judgmental and people will criticise it, but parents fall into 2 categories. You've got the loving, nurturing, which is sometimes mum, and you've got the practical, which is sometimes us. What we do know from dads is that we take more risks in terms of how we interact with our child, and we interact through play. We're more comfortable messing around.
Oh yeah,
Blowing raspberries, rough and tumble.
yeah.
Now, children with neurodiversity will interact with that, not maybe in the same way, but they don't want to sit and talk about their emotions and feelings. So something that we're not good at actually becomes a strength, because we can interact in different ways. They might do it like doing Lego and sit and play. We can sit and do that. You don't have to talk, but you can sit and interact. So we're actually quite well equipped to deal with children that are neurodiverse. We don't always tap into that as services, but it is that fact of we are very logical, we are very practical, we need to know a little bit more about what we can do, and there is so much unknown, a lot of uncertainty when it comes to children that have got autism and how they're going to process it, because we are going to put that limit on them. I hate the fact that we call it a label because it's a medical diagnosis, but it's a very heavy label because it's constantly, once we put that on you, you can't achieve this, this or this because we don't think that you can. And sometimes as the parent, it's trying to prevent that label becoming very heavy is all that we can do. And what you're doing is very similar to what I would describe as it's trying to keep things the same as it is. I don't like the word normal, but sometimes we've got to say normal to know what abnormal is.
Yes.
Yeah.
And it's, you know, that we do make fun. We try and teach them to do things in a different way because they can. We just got to teach them differently. People say they haven't got a sense of humour. They have. It's just different.
Yes.
It might be a bit dry, might be a bit blunt.
Yeah.
They could be incredibly honest. You know, like we do joke in my house. Don't ask one of my boys, does my bum look big in this? Because it's
You're
always.
going to get one answer.
No, so there's lots of strengths. We just don't always tap in on it. So we do have those spaces where we can have them conversations because it is hard, especially with discipline as well, because we live in a world, and you're a very male-dominated world, that is, it's our job to sort of discipline. And if you've got children, say have autism, and one that doesn't, you have to parent differently.
Yeah.
And to one, it looks like they're getting away with stuff, and you've got to find that balance. How do you? You've just described it very well.
Yeah.
But you do have to do things differently because you can't just punish certain behaviours because those behaviours are coming from a place. And we've got to help them understand where that place has gone wrong, or getting angry, getting upset like this, you shouldn't talk back to your elder. Why not? We've got to teach them how to challenge the world. We're their first tool on how to challenge, but we're taught that you don't talk back to your elders. But they need to learn the art to communicate and debate. It's important. So it's how they do it appropriately, or if they get overwhelmed. Like Inside Out, the Disney Pixar movie.
We're an advocate for that.
Yeah.
A perfect way to
love it,
describe emotions to children is that all of these things, they have a place. It's just sometimes you put it in the wrong place at the wrong time, and I think that using stuff like that, where they can visualise it, if they have autism, definitely helps. So there is lots of stuff that we do, so yeah, definitely we can pick up that conversation, because it is something that comes up quite a lot, and it's just wanting to make sure our job, again, which sounds a bit sexist, is we know from sort of evolution, and anthropologists talk about the journey of a father, the evolution of a father, is that children, I don't know what it's like in your house, but in mine, 18 months was about the point where the boys came to daddy a little bit. We used to joke to come to the dark side. You know, that's when you're ready to mess about a little bit. Until that point, it was mummy. And what they would do is they would be sort of internalised. So mum's giving them nurture and love, and they're facing the family. Well, our job is to turn them out the way and prepare them for the world. That's where we sort of take over, and that becomes our responsibilities. And when you've got children that have got neurodiversity or even physical disabilities, it's, you know, how can we do that? How can we prepare them and make sure that they're ready for the world? When you do the job that you do, makes it even worse, because you know the world's sometimes not ready for them.
Yeah.
And that's all children.
Yeah.
And then the last thing on that is that what we do tend to see is that, yes, you'll parent children differently, but we do that with all children. And you might not agree, but in my opinion, I think this has definitely happened. You look at a child, say you've got two siblings, and again, drawing it back to the police, but you've got one that ends up going through the criminal justice system on a regular basis, and one who becomes a doctor. And you sit there and you say, but they came from the same family and had the same parents, and it's trying to happen. No, they didn't. Because no child ever gets the same parents, because we're never at the same stage in life.
Yeah.
We're always going through different things, and you might have just got that promotion, so you've got the extra 10 hours at work that you're not focusing on them. They're not getting that same time for you. Or you're missing the fact that they've maybe gone into that group of friends that you probably would have tried to steer them away from because you're doing other stuff.
Yeah.
Or you've gone through a divorce, or you've had chemotherapy, or whatever it is, but they never get exactly the same parent at the same times. And that's the bit that we try and explain, that to try and remove some of the guilt, is if one of them is struggling and one of them isn't, it's not always necessarily our fault, it's just life. It's just the way that things go. And I think that when you do have children that one has neurodiverse and one doesn't, your focus will always lean. You give more time to the children that need your attention. Yeah. That's parenting, that's what we do. Yeah. And it won't ever change, and if they need it more, you give it more. But the debate of am I doing it right, and the guilt that comes with it, is incredibly difficult, I think, for all parents. I think that parenting guilt feeds into mental health as much as anything else, I think.
Yeah, it's massive. Yeah, it is, and you can just sit there some nights kind of think, what the hell have I done differently?
When the house is a mess, you sit down and go, fucking hell, Jesus Christ.
Have I missed something today?
What have I not done?
Yeah, and it's right, and it's only when you peel it back and you think, do you know what? There is stuff that's different, or there's stuff that's going on that we're probably not dealing with the best.
No.
and that's
Like
coming out to
COVID,
the
there's
kids.
people that had children before COVID and then had babies during COVID, and they
Yeah,
have
we
two
had our son during COVID.
completely different experiences.
Yeah,
And no
same
one
to us.
that didn't have one will ever understand what it's like to have
No.
a COVID baby.
No, and it's like, I mean, we could never get over, because obviously everybody was covered up with surgical masks walking around, but Theo would still pick up on stuff and communicate just by watching eyes and everything else.
Yeah.
And it was just, it's unbelievable. I mean, Ray was a different story, non-COVID baby, she was having interaction with everybody walking around, but you go to the range on your one trip a week to get out of your bubble, and everybody's in a mask, but he'd be laughing and giggling and getting on with it.
Yeah.
Like, you don't even know what's going on from my nose down, but yeah, it's just
That was the other thing
surreal.
we noticed with particularly teenagers, who, not all, but will be parents of the future, is that COVID had a positive impact on some of them. There was obviously lots of negatives, but so like charities that work with children, like Young Mind and example, they did some research and some studies on it, that there was children who, once we took them out of the school system, they thrived.
Mm.
And neurodiverse children, quite a lot of them, is I can still learn, but I'm learning in my environment.
Yeah,
at
the
my
shackles
pace.
are off.
Shackles are off, I'm a lot more comfortable. They were doing well, they were engaging better academically, which is how we measure things, unfortunately, the only way we measure it, but they were doing better on paper. This is fantastic. Then what happened is we put them straight back into the school system,
Yeah.
and they
Yeah.
just nosedived.
Yeah.
And it was, we criticised them for maybe being weak or for not being able to cope with the adjustment, or then we changed the exam results.
Yeah.
It was like they were
Yeah.
scored on a system, and then all of a sudden the system changed, and they were sort of caught in
Yeah.
the crossover. If you did this last year, you would have got a 7, but now you got a 4 because
Yeah.
we changed the scoring system. And you've got all these things that, and it's, you can't possibly be experienced. You're only a teenager. What have you got to be depressed about? What have you got to be anxious about? And I'd like to say that we maybe have got better in
Yeah.
understanding children's mental health, and definitely adolescents and teenagers. But that COVID experience, you could have a baby in the house, and then you've got one that's maybe a little bit older, and say you got extended leave because of COVID, you're at home a little bit more, or you're working from home. Oh, this is great, I've got loads of time. But your teenager had a miserable time.
Yeah.
And again, it's very different experiences, and all they're hearing is how great the COVID experience was, and for them it was terrible.
Yeah.
And then they go back into this, so that you can see the people that are coming our way, particularly mine when I work in sort of parenting, is that's what their experiences was, and they're trying to interact with people that are a little bit older that didn't go to school during COVID,
Yeah.
and just seeing things differently. Or you work from home, and again, everyone's got their own experiences. Some people didn't work from home, so had a completely different view. So I think COVID helped us in so many ways see things differently, and I think parenting was definitely one of them. I think that there's been a big shift, one in how important we now see the role of dad, because there was so much publicity about them sat in the car park,
Yeah.
or not missing the birth of their child because they weren't allowed in, or
Yeah.
being born and they've all got masks on, or somebody tested positive. And this is not criticism of services and maternity. They were made to make decisions. We all know what that feels like,
Yeah.
having to follow instructions that we
Yeah.
don't always agree with. And that negative impact was, hang on a minute, we've seen a deterioration in the mental health of particularly mothers, because we realised that their person wasn't there.
Yeah.
And they had to go through that on
On
their
their
own,
own, yeah.
scans on their own, getting bad
Yeah,
feedback
I
on their
remember
own. All of that happened when you're sat in the car park, and then we think, well, actually that person's quite important. So as much as you don't want to sit here and say, and it's one of the first questions about the change, COVID did change that. I think we've definitely seen they're more important than we think they are, and maybe we should find a way to interact with them, because one, they're sat outside, so it was highlighted, but two, when we look at the mum and the impact for her having to go through that on her own, and I can't imagine, because I never had to do it. I tried to be at every appointment possible that I could be, but sometimes you can't, it's just
Yeah.
life. And I think that during COVID, if you had somebody going upstairs, and again, I hope this doesn't sort of upset anybody, but we work with families where they went for a scan and found out there was no viable pregnancy. You should never have to do that on your own.
No.
And then come outside to the car park and try and break that news to the person
Yeah,
you love
exactly.
without the support. So you get, in the space of like half an hour, your heart gets shattered twice.
Yeah.
So those people are now sometimes having babies now, so they're going back through a service. And we've tried to move on from COVID, but for them people, they're stuck in it because that was their last
Yeah.
experience. And so there's lots of different factors as to why I think we are starting to understand, not just fathers, but parents, and the implications of pregnancy and the complications that can come with it, and the psychological impact. And that's, that 50-50, I think that will shift. Going back to the previous point, I think we'll start to see it a little bit more. And the last thing I will say on that is, we know that statistically, if one parent, which is normally mum, as postnatal depression, then the other person that supports them, 1 in 2's chance of 50% likely they will experience depression at the same time. And people are like, oh, okay, we take that statistic, that's quite shocking. It's actually quite obvious.
Mm.
If you've got a partner who's really struggling, and it goes back, and I'm not criticising anybody, that I won't say anything, I'll bottle it up, I don't want to talk to my partner, which is fine, we know that. The issue it causes is they know you better than anybody else. They're fully aware that you're struggling.
Yeah.
What the moms will sometimes say is that I knew he was struggling. What hurt me the most is he couldn't tell me.
Feel they could talk to him about it.
He couldn't come to me about it, and I know why he was doing it, but it hurts that he couldn't talk to me.
Yeah.
And then if they are trying to constantly pick somebody up who's struggling, and then have your own recovery or your own stuff and your own children and your own job, it does take a toll. So when people say, Dad's not patient, Dad's not priority in maternity, absolutely he's not. We know that. He's not the priority. He's nowhere near it. But if you don't start to open up your lens to the people that are around that person, and that includes siblings, then you're never really going to be able to fully support that patient. Because my oldest, when he went to have his daughter, his last memory was almost losing his mum. Mm. That conversation never came up. You know, he actually went into the exact same room that his mum was in, and his partner was took in during the pregnancy, and it was like, you've got to start to understand, because he phoned me and said, Dad, it's that, and you've all experienced it, it's that you start to feel a bit hot.
Yeah.
And you can feel it coming. It's like, I don't know where this is going to go, but I know I don't like it. And because we're men, the natural response is we get a bit angry with that feeling, because we're trying to suppress it and deal with it at the same time. Now, if he then gets upset, it's zero tolerance. Yeah. He's an aggressive man in that setting, and it's not saying it's right, it's just, where did it come from? And we've all got that history, but we don't screen dance. Yeah. We don't ask about that history, we don't interact in that same sort of way, but we punish the behaviour that we're not happy with, which the reason I brought that up is it sort of goes back to parenting a little, is that we it's like if you say to your kids, you can't have chocolates before you have your dinner, because you won't eat dinner. And then they keep asking and asking, and we've all done this.
Just have one.
Just have it, shut up.
And then they don't eat their dinner. You can't blame them. Because you gave them.
I told you weren't going to eat it.
But we've all got that point where it's, oh, do you know what? Anything for an easy life. And we will sort of give in. But that's a little bit of what happens with dads, is that we play a part of why they get upset in these settings, and that helplessness and that frustration. We don't try and de-escalate it, which again is something that you guys do, and you're taught to de-escalate. They don't always do that. And then when we punish the action. Mm-hmm. And that's the bit that a lot of the work we are trying to do with services is just understand that male psychology of, it's not always out of malice. Even from a safeguarding point of view, you guys would have seen this, is the aggression, the guy that loses it and trashes the room. It's very scary to see. I would never want to be in that situation, particularly as a woman. But it's, okay, that's really bad, but let's walk it back.
What's led up to that? Yeah.
That's what we don't do. I think in mental health enough is we look at the, you did this is terrible, we're going to have to punish you. But not, okay, how can we learn from that, and how do we prevent it happening again? Because if you arrest him, and again I'm not trying to insult you, and you take him away from that situation, and then no charges are pressed, you take him home, you've got the same problem.
Yeah, you just put it back into that situation.
You haven't dealt with it, and I think that that's a lot of what we see is the, why you drink. Nobody really wakes up and thinks, I want to be addicted to drugs or alcohol. It's, they're trying to medicate something. How do we figure out what they're trying to medicate? And I think that that's the next stage. Mental health in general is that we have to get better at the why, not the what. I think we've got good at identifying the what. Yeah. It's just, you know, how do we prevent it? And I think the only way to do that is what you're doing, and maybe collaboratively other people like myself that are doing it. We've got to take it back to school. We've got to start these conversations a lot younger.
Yeah, we've been saying it for the last couple of weeks.
We've been
we
trying
need to start
it
younger and younger. You know, I see it now. My kids have got mental health teachers or assistants in the school now to address the sort of issues that the kids are having, and that's a sign that that's where the problems are starting, and that's where we need to get in early and again have the conversation.